This is a story related to me via my father. He told me yesterday, as we were speaking of ghosts. Dad said he was walking home one fall evening while he was in high school, in the late 1950s. He had been in downtown Portsmouth lollygagging around with some friends. It was now time to go home for dinner. If anyone is familiar with Portsmouth, New Hampshire, they know it is rich in history and an old port town, hence the name. There is an alley that cuts behind the school, and it passes by the South Mill Pond. He was halfway down the alley when he saw a bright light coming out of the sky. He had no idea what it was. This was back in the day where schools were building bomb shelters and kids were scared of some sort of disaster. The light got brighter and brighter. As it came closer to him, it was speaking to him. Dad listened to it and was mesmerized. He said it looked like an angel, but not anything like you would assume it to be. It spoke to him for quite some time. He doesn't recall how long he was there. The concept of time ceased to exist, and it left in the same manner as it came. He continued home and told his mother. She told him it must be his guardian angel. To this day, he can't remember what it said or what it really looked like. He had such a glimmer in his eye as he told me. He was smiling like he hadn't told me the whole story. In the years after that event, my father has cheated death at least 5 times, the last time being this past year. He should have died, but he didn't. I wonder if the angel guided him through all of the obstacles he has faced. If it did, I'm glad, and I do believe. Thanks for reading. One night, I was hanging out with my friends in an apartment in the small town I lived in. 3 people lived there. A married couple, and one of their friends who was a young teenager. I would hang out and stay overnight there frequently, as there was not much to do in such a small town. This night was just like any other, or so it seemed at first. We were just hanging out, talking and laughing about whatever came up. Soon it was late, and the young girl decided to go to bed while the rest of us were going to stay up longer. She walked down the hallway and entered her bedroom and screamed. We immediately jumped up and ran to her bedroom. She was looking down at the floor with an expression of terror on her face. She was staring at a medium-sized porcelain angel that was lying broken in 3 pieces on the floor. She kept this angel on the top of her Bible on a nightstand. Both the Bible and angel were on the floor. A broken angel is nothing to scream in terror over, and at first I was confused, but she picked it up, and streaming from the eyes was what looked like fresh blood. Immediately, I assumed that she was pulling some prank on us. An angel crying tears of blood sounded so generic to me, so unimaginative, that I thought for sure she was trying to get some negative attention. I took the angel pieces from her and said, yeah, right. She swore that she had nothing to do with the broken angel and its tears of blood. I gave her a scrumptious look, then looked closely at the angel's face. The blood looked like fresh nail polish, and I still did not believe that she had nothing to do with it. Knowing that nail polish smells strongly of chemicals, I put my nose close to the angel's face and smelled it. I could not detect a familiar nail polish smell, but I was still very doubtful. I noticed that the blood was running perfectly from the base of the eye, that it followed the contour of the round eye, and that none appeared on the eye itself. It was then that I started to think twice about what was happening. I knew that this girl had not left my sight for at least an hour and a half before she entered her bedroom and promptly screamed. Knowing that applying nail polish in such a way that it would not get on the eye itself, and then to make it run down the face in such a short time, a matter of seconds, was nearly impossible. As I held the angel in my hands, I grilled the girl about what she had seen when she entered the room. She said that she walked in to see it broken and the blood just beginning to run. I asked her several times if she was faking us out, and that a joke like that would not be funny at all. She was clearly shaken and refused to touch the angel again. After asking her many questions, I looked at the angel again. To my complete shock, the bright red had turned darker with a slightly rough surface. I touched it, and it was dry. Nail polish stays smooth and bright even after it dries. This unnerved me, and I scraped the blood with my fingernail and flaked it off. I've seen coagulated blood before many times, and this red stuff was just like it. I gave the girl a look of seriousness as my mind started to swim. We spoke a bit longer, and she said she would like to be alone. I decided to place the angel on top of the entertainment center in the front room. The married couple were standing in the hallway watching me place the angel on the entertainment center. They were extremely doubtful too, even more so than I, because I believe I had made some logical deductions that they had not. I placed the angel gently on top of the center and began to walk towards the married couple. Now, I placed these pieces about a foot from the edge of the entertainment center. This I know, I did it purposely. About halfway to the married couple, I watched their faces turn to an expression of pure astonishment. They pointed behind me, and I looked back at the center. The angel pieces lay on the carpet in front of the entertainment center. I stood staring at the pieces in complete disbelief. The couple approached me and said that they did not see the pieces actually move from the center, but they saw them bounce on the carpet as I walked away. As we stood there, we all got a very eerie feeling that we were not alone. I sat on the couch and got a feeling of malevolence. I sat quietly and felt the presence of a very angry man in the room who was trying to scare me. I spoke out loud and told him I knew what he was up to and that it would not work with me and that he should leave. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a face of a man who had the most terrible scowl and angry eyes. I believe he was truly upset that I was not going to allow him to have that effect on me. The feeling of the room returned to normal, and I relaxed. I went back to the girl's room and told her what had just happened. She was crying and said that ever since she had been going out with this certain young man, who was very controlling and had lots of bottled emotions, a spirit of an angry man had been following her around. I suggested that she leave this boy and pray for the spirit to leave her alone. She ended up breaking up with him, but a few months after the incident. This story sounds incredibly generic, I know. I did not believe it myself, but I was there, and there was definitely something there that night that did not like us. Thanks for reading. One April morning, I had to go and meet a woman and take her to a doctor's visit and translate for her. We were to meet in front of the translating office. When I turned onto the street of the business, I noticed a minivan with 2 adults and a child in the middle of both adults, and I parked and approached the couple to ask if she was the woman that I had to go and help translate. The child and husband just looked at me and smiled as I spoke to this woman, and the child was just all jumpy and playful and all smiles. Cute 3-year-old boy with his thick blue jacket, dark brown hair, cute as can be. The woman then agreed to go in my vehicle and left her husband and child. At this point, I was unaware of who this child was. We continued in my vehicle towards the doctor's office, and she started to tell me more about her doctor's visit. This woman was diabetic and had lost already a baby at birth, and 2 had been miscarriages. All she wanted, she told me, was to have a baby. I thought, how strange. Then I asked her, and the little boy in the minivan, isn't he your son? She replied no. Then I asked if he was a relative, or maybe it was just babysitting for someone. And she was just looking at me kinda weird, like that what is she talking about look. I caught on, and asked what was wrong, and she said that there was no boy in the minivan, just her and her husband. I was shocked and a little speechless, and said to her, now look, there was this little boy in the middle of you and your husband. He would look at me when you were talking to me, and he would smile and be playful. I even described him to her and what he was wearing, and she said no, that there was no child with them at all. You know, in the beginning, I thought that she was joking with me, but she was serious. So then I became serious and very thoughtful of why this occurred, because sometimes you think now, I know I'm not that crazy, and I know I don't hallucinate, and I know I was not seeing things. I'm in my right state of mind, so what is going on? All I could tell her was that babies many times when they pass, they continue as angels to be by their parents' side, and that now she knew that her little guardian angel was this cute angelic brown-haired boy. Months passed, and she returned to the office and her husband was with her. And she told her, remember her? She's the one that saw her angel in her car. This happens to me often, that I see, feel, or even sense people or children that have passed. But at the time it is happening, I don't think they are past. I see them like I see anyone else. It is after that I know that I just saw someone that is deceased. Thanks for reading. Call me crazy, but as a teen, my friends and I loved exploring abandoned properties. There was a house just outside of town about a half-mile off of the city that intrigued me since childhood, and I had to go see it. One afternoon, two of my friends agreed that it would be a great place to check out, so we loaded up and went. It was a typical creepy old farmhouse type place, made of wood that had begun to rot decades ago, dirty, mostly broken windows, rickety porches, 2 stories high, plus an attic. Getting in was no problem. The doors were gone, so we just walked in. There was evidence of other people having been there, as the room we concluded to be, the living room, was full of empty beer cans and potato bag chips. Uninterested in these findings, we made our way into the kitchen. It was broad daylight outside, but this house was pretty dark inside, adding to the intrigue and creepiness. The kitchen was a wreck. It seemed as though the mice had taken full advantage of whatever had been left there, so on to the dining room. Finally, we saw a set of stairs, the first ones we had seen so far, and up we went. On the 3rd step from the top, I set my soda can down so we'd be able to remember that's where we came up. I'm glad I had the foresight to do that. We meandered to the top floor, and found that it was much brighter and warmer up there. Probably because it wasn't under the cover of the low tree branches as the downstairs had been. We weren't feeling too afraid, just a little uneasy, as we walked around until we got to a large room on the east side. I can't really explain what I felt. Mostly I felt as though I wanted to cry. Someone was very sad, and that much I could feel. Whoever it was hadn't been ready to die when they did, and weren't able to say goodbye and let go. My friend Chris left the room, stating that he was finding it difficult to breathe. Must be the dust. My friend Megan was very pale and shaking, so we decided okay, it's time to go. We walked around the top floor, looking for stairs to the attic, and never found them. We found a set going down, which we had missed on the first few go-arounds, so down we went. They led to the living room. How was that possible? We walked around the downstairs, peeking at all the little doors for stairs, only to find closets. There wasn't a door to get out of the living room, so we went back upstairs and walked around some more. Finally, Megan spotted the stairs where my soda can was, and we happily bounded down them and back into the dining room. We made our way around the downstairs again just to be sure. The dining room led to the back porch, and the kitchen had the stairs to go up. The kitchen only led to the dining room and the living room. The living room only led to the kitchen and the porches. Okay, so where were the stairs we walked down? This was the same room because the mess on the floor was the same, and the mantle above the fireplace was the same. So what was the deal here? We went back upstairs, and Megan stayed at the top of the stairs, while Chris and I walked around again in search of the mystery steps we had gone down. We never found them. As Chris and I were walking back towards Megan, I heard someone in the large bedroom that made me feel very sad. It sounded like a soft crying, and I felt very bad. I felt that we intruded into this person's life, and it was time we left, so we did. Most places we ever visited, we went back for a second and sometimes third look. However, this place, we didn't. We all felt after we left that maybe whoever was there really just wanted to be left alone, and we never went back together. The oddest thing is that on Easter Day of the following year, I had this unstoppable urge to go to the house and leave flowers on the porch. I got some daffodils and headed out there, only to find my friends Chris and Megan also had come to bring flowers. We all had that urge, and we all headed out there without the others knowing with a big bouquet of fresh daffodils. Something there touched each of us, and I will forever feel a connection to that house in the woods, and whoever that is who lives there in the large room on the east side of the upper floor who seems to like daffodils. Thanks for reading. First, I need to give you some background history. I can see auras. If you don't know what that is, it's the energy a body gives off. There are different colors, and those colors have meanings such as blue and green is relaxed. I started to see auras around the same time I had my experience. I was in 8th grade, at church, the first time I saw an aura. I can't see them as well now. It's been 6 years since I started, and my ability has faded from lack of use. My experience happened the same year, 8th grade, in French class. My teacher was working on the overhead, so she had all the lights off. I was sitting in the back of the class. French didn't excite me much, so I was not really paying attention to what she was saying. Instead, I was playing with the light around her. This is rather hard to explain. Her body was reflecting light from the overhead. I think I could see this because I could see auras. Anyway, I would stare at the light around her and move it to the dark beside her. Kind of like when you would stare at a bright light for a while, and then when you would look away, you still see the light. Well, I could see the outline of her body, and then it would just fade away. I would then look back at my teacher and do this all over again. The point being, I was technically staring at nothing for a while. It was after doing this a couple of times that I noticed something else. It was a thin, blue outline of a person standing opposite my teacher, watching what she was writing on the overhead. I was looking at its side profile, and I could see a perfect outline of a nose, mouth, etc. I could only see it from the waist up because the desks were blocking the rest of my view. I froze when I noticed this thing. I couldn't stop staring. I thought I must be seeing things. When it turned towards me and started to approach me, it didn't walk, but came towards me in a flashing motion, like a strobe light was on. I freaked, all my muscles tensed, and I wanted to bolt, but was too frozen. That's when it stopped approaching me and just laughed at me. This is when it starts to get really weird. The laughter was inside my head, and I know it was not mine. It was cold and evil, and I was about to start crying. The rest of the class, it just watched my teacher and was smiling over my fear. Once class was over, I bolted from the room and told my friend what had happened. Nothing else happened for the rest of the day. When I got home, I told my mom what happened and said I was scared of going back to French class. She said if it happens again, I was to say a prayer and ask for God to protect me. The next day, I went back to school. French was my third period class and math was my first. Sitting in math, I was miserable. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened and I was scared. It was then that I hear the laughter again. My body tensed up again just like last time. That just made it laugh even more. I asked it inside my head, "What do you want?" It told me, and this is happening all inside my head, mind you, to torture you. I know I sound crazy talking with myself, but it was definitely not my voice I heard. It was deep and cold and very evil. I then said, "Fuck you. You have to give me a break." I was only 14 and not very mature yet. Right after I told it off, I got very sick to my stomach. I then apologized and took back my comment. The stomach pains went right away, and it started to laugh hard. It was feeding off of my fear and seemed to be gaining strength from it. As soon as math was over and I had to go to my second period class, I found my friend who I'd talked to yesterday and told him I did not want to go to French class. He said he'd go to counseling center with me. Second period went by fine. When French time came, I had to go ask my teacher if it was okay for me to go to a counseling center. Well, as soon as I walked into the classroom, it felt like walking into a cloud of evil. All I wanted to do was get out of there. I started to cry while asking my teacher to leave, and the laughter started again. This time, it was echoing in my head. My poor teacher was trying to write out my slip as fast as possible so I could leave. I went to the counseling center with my friend, and the two of us sat alone in a small computer room. We just sat there. There was nothing else to do. I could feel it in the room somewhere with me, enjoying my pain. Without really thinking about it, I thought to myself, "Oh God, help me." Right at the instant, I heard a scream, and I could feel that someone else was there. I turned to my friend and told him, then a teacher came in and said we had to go back to class. I didn't know what was happening, but by the time I had walked across the commons to my French class, I was in a box. That's the only way I can explain it. I felt like I was in a box, and it was scratching from the outside to get in. While inside my box, I was feeling safety, good, and peace. I heard a voice that told me over and over, "You're safe now. Nothing's going to get you." I couldn't stop smiling. I felt so good. As the day went on, my box got bigger. It grew to the size of the school, and then so big I couldn't even feel its boundaries, but I knew I was still inside. I talked with the spirit for 2 days. It told me I would always be safe, and it was a messenger from God. I believe it was my guardian angel. Look, I know this story sounds crazy, and I've tried my best to believe I had an overactive imagination, but it was too real to not be true. The voices, the things happening around my classroom, things that are happening in general. I just couldn't fathom what was going on. And I know, it's disbelievable, like I said, but still, in my head, I know it was real. Hey guys, if you're listening to the end of this video, which you probably are because you're hearing the outro, I just wanted to say that it's a joy and pleasure to be your narrator for the night, or whenever you're doing this. I don't even care. I mean, I care, but you know what I mean. I love you guys. Anyway guys, something slightly serious here. So, I just wanted to say that apparently the last video I uploaded didn't get sent to your notification box. And if that's the case, please hit the notification bell, and always remember that you should share this video on Facebook or any social media that you have a chance, especially if you like it. If you don't like it, share it anyway and brag about how stupid it is. I don't know, just, go with it. The only reason why I say comment, like, subscribe, and all this and all that is really because I only upload twice a week, and that's not good for the algorithm, supposedly. Basically, the algorithm favors, everyday uploads and whatnot, so as a result, my videos might get buried underneath all these other videos that are fantastic that other narrators do. So that being said, that must mean that I'm lazy and I don't do shit for life. Anyway, I'm kidding, guys. My demonetization is just going off the roof and just, gonna blast me off into outer space, and I won't ever be able to monetize ever again. Not that it matters. I mean, I'll just sit in the corner and cry from lack of money and life and just crying because I'm a miserable little sap. But anyway, guys, no, really. Just disregard whatever I say. I'm just a wacky person if you haven't met me yet, on YouTube. I'm really embracing the cringe right now, so can you just guys leave me a comment of sympathy, down below so I can respond and actually have conversations with you about how cringy I am? We can call it Cringeosaurus Rex. I don't really care. Anyway, guys, sorry for all the nonsense as usual, but good night, good morning, and I'll see you in the next video because I love you all, and I don't want this to end. I guess I'll just leave this running and recording, for 24 hours, so it'll be the longest video in the world. Just kidding. I'm just going to end it right now. Good night, good morning, and I'll see you in the next video, hopefully with a less cringy outro. Bye-bye, guys.